So hello, everyone. I'm Deborah Jason. I'm the author of Millionaire Marketing on a Shoestring Budget and DeborahJason.com. And you're on the Marketing Blab with Deborah. Today, I'm really excited because I have a powerful team, two awesome women. They're mother and daughter, and they're here to join me and share with you some tips about mesmerizing marketing and how to attract your buyer's brain. So on my, let's see, it's always kind of backwards here. I think over here we have Shahar, and below me we have Nashlah, mom and daughters. So thanks, ladies, for being here today. I don't know who wants to jump on first, but why don't
I always talk first.
You always talk first? Okay.
It's always a competition.
Seniority takes the cake. So why don't you start then, Shahar, and tell our viewers a little bit about you and why they should be listening today.
Well, I think they should be listening because it's going to be fun, first of all, because we got to enjoy everything we do in life. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining, but we are also going to provide a lot of information that I really think people can, use it, apply, see results right away. And that's something that we are all looking for. Right? Not just information thrown out there, but it's structured information that we can actually apply and see results. So I'm Shahar. You see below me Nashlah. We are a mother and daughter team, and we have been working together for a very long time. I think since Nashlah was actually 14 or 15. I have a degree in e-commerce, and we've been working online, I believe, since 1998. And here in Utah, where we live, we have a consulting company called Buzz Booster. And the company is about 11 years old, correct, Nash?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and we do consulting for marketing, especially online marketing and what we call neuromarketing. So talking to the part of the brain where really people make decisions, the unconscious part of the brain, which is very fun, is a very fun topic. We also have an e-learning company, it's a new company called CuriousMondo.com, M-O-N-D-O, where people can improve their skills or find new skills to get a place in the market. And they can watch the courses for free when it's live. So it's been really fun, Deborah. And yeah, I think fun is an important part in my life. We got to enjoy. And I know you like to dance and you like to have a lot of fun as well, right?
Yes, I agree. Well, tell us a little bit about Curious Mondo, because it's a new adventure for both of you.
Yes.
Where did the idea come from?
It was on a road trip, because that's something we do all the time. We go on road trip. Yeah. And as much as we like the consulting part, we've been in it for a long time. We have our clients. So, we were thinking, okay, we need a new challenge. We need a new challenge for ourselves. And we were talking about the how people today really are overwhelmed. We are all overwhelmed because we have this overload of information coming from every single angle every single day. But when it comes for you to go and apply that, it's kind of painful. Right? And your mindset is, I can get all this for free. But then when you go and apply, things don't work the way you expected, right? You see that gorgeous cake on Pinterest and you go and cook it, and then you see a total different result.
It doesn't look the same.
Doesn't look the same whatsoever. So you get frustrated, and many times that gets in the way of you becoming the person you really are meant to become. This is one reason. The other reason is millennials today. Millennials today, I don't know if you know this, but universities as a whole, they're having a hard time enrolling people. Because millennials are realizing they don't want the format of education we have today. They want something, they don't want anybody preaching to them what to do. And they would like to have a mentor instead, somebody that they respect and they understand that the person has done that, has been through the hoops, the mistakes. They want updated information and they want something they can apply right away. So we were thinking about this. And the third reason, people out there that don't have access, outside the US, they don't have access to information, structured information that they could, for example, start a home-based business and make a little bit more. For you to have an idea, 40% of the American population has less than $400 in the bank.
That's staggering.
It is
40%.
Wow. And 75% lives paycheck to paycheck.
Paycheck.
Right? And then you take a look, even though the economy has improved a lot, you take a look to the side and you see that most people go to foreclosure because of $300. If only they had $300 more, they would lose the house. Yes. Right? So you can think, okay, what people like you and me, Deborah and Nashlah, we are entrepreneurs. So if we saw ourselves in such a situation, we would think, what can we do to generate $300 more? And you can do many things. You can do jewelry and sell in a farmer's market, right? You can do a new consulting. I don't know. Well, some people don't make that jump, and they need to improve their skills before they take action. So Curious Mondo started because of those three reasons. So we provide a very informal kind of class where we have a host that is really holding a tablet and interacting with the audience. So when the audience asks a question through the chat, it's going to be asked to the expert, and the expert will answer that question. Doing the live streaming is totally free. So anybody in any place in the world can watch that. But people that want to revisit that information, well, yes, they can get on demand. So we call ourselves the next Netflix of education. People will be able to go there, improve their skills, start a new business just by going to CuriousMondo.com.
And when people are watching something on Curious Mondo, is it one time, let's say, like an hour presentation, or is it a series of like video classes or online classes that they attend over 2 days or 3 days or a week?
Most courses are either 2 days or 3 days, and they last about 3 hours a day. They have the
6 hours or 9 hours, of course.
Exactly. And then they can watch live in the morning, or if they miss, because they may have a job, for example, they can watch free during the replay as well at night.
Gotcha. So let's talk about this thing about the buyer's brain. You two are the neuromarketing specialists. And so what do people need to know about how to attract or mesmerize their market?
We have a different market today, a different market than we had 2 years ago. We have people that are more overwhelmed than ever. The level of frustration of most people in their own accomplishments is high, because one thing social media does is show always the green grass in our home, right? We all post pictures when we are traveling or we are at the beach, and people that are home trying to work and make things happen, they get a little frustrated. There is even a term called Facebook depression, right? And all this also makes us not take action. So when people are trying to go out and sell something, or even, just get more awareness for what they are doing as a business, they also get frustrated because they don't see people reacting. So we need to understand that what we used to work marketing-wise 5 years ago is not working as well today. You need to become more relevant to your audience. And we are going to go in depth into the relevancy part, but we need to mean something to them. And then we need to understand how decisions are made. Because when we are marketing, many times we go and we start talking about the benefits or how great we are and everything that we offer because we think that's relevant. But really, facts, they only matter to the frontal part of your brain, which does make most of the decisions. 95% of the decisions are made by the unconscious part of the brain, the reptilian brain. And that brain has one function in life. What is it, Nash?
To protect you.
To protect you.
And it's a very primitive brain, though. And so sometimes it gets in the way, right, Shahar? Explain the whole survival thing.
So, that brain is always thinking, will a cyber tiger show up right now in this room? So it scans everything around it and considers this dangerous or not. So this brain really doesn't like any type of change. That's
because it knows how to navigate through what it knows. And so when you change it, it's like, I need to relearn and assess the situation and see if there's a threat here.
Yes. And then he freezes and he doesn't take any action, which if you're in business trying to reach them, that's not a good thing, right?
Well, that kind of makes me think of, there's so many sayings out there about change or about going out of your comfort zone.
Yes, there are, but that's the hard.
So that's what I hear you saying is people they see all that and they go, well, it's comfortable here.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to move.
Why should I do something else?
It's safe. And yes. That plays in several levels. It's not only when you're trying to thinking about purchasing something, but it's everything. That's why it's so common for us to boycott ourselves, because no matter how miserable you might be at this moment, your reptilian brain understands this moment and it doesn't want to move from there. So you may say, but if success comes, this is what I'm going to be, and the reptilian brain will say, I don't know about that. I know about this. We are going to stay here. Put your sleepers, honey, and watch TV.
And the kicker is, though, because sometimes we find ourselves in a negative situation, in a bad state of mind, or in a moment. Let's just say this happens a lot when there's money issues, and someone can recognize that every now and then they always find themselves back into that dip where there's a money issue. And it's like, why is it that my brain, why do I boycott myself? Why is it that I always end up in that?
That's
in that situation? And that's basically because of that reptilian brain, because it knows how to navigate the hard times, right? It knows how to cope and to get by. And so when you make a change, when you start making affirmations, when you start doing vision boards or whatever it is that you're doing, these things are changes. And even though they're positive changes to your brain, it's like, it's something new. I don't want to have to go through something new again. I don't have to learn this. And so then it becomes that cyclical process.
So, it's so difficult, Deborah. That part of the brain, but at the same time, it's responsible for 95% of your purchase decisions. It's the one that when you're in the mall, it looks at a yellow purse and it says, oh my gosh, the yellow purse is gorgeous. I need it. I want it.
And it says, I cannot survive without that purse.
And then and then the neurofrontal cortex will say, well, honey, yes, I think you only have 3 yellow purses. And it's good. This one is square. It's not round like the others. Yeah, let's go for it. But the decision was already made. You see?
But that's more impulse buying, wouldn't you say? I mean, as opposed to when we look at, and maybe some people do buy impulsively when they go online and see a sales page, let's say. And that sales page is trying to mesmerize them and resonate with them so that they click on the buy now button.
Emotions sell. So Glenn Diesel usually tells you buy with the heart, justify with the brain, right? It's one way of saying you buy through emotions and then you justify. What's really happening is you buy with your reptilian brain and justify with the frontal cortex. But it's the same thing. You're buying based on emotions. Okay, that plays the.
So why is it called the reptilian brain?
It's the primitive side of the brain. I don't know where it came from, but it's because it's and it's interesting if folks out there watching us are marketers. Think about this. We live in a world that things change all the time, right? Like social media changes all the time. Instagram changed yesterday, right? So when you're practicing marketing, you have to understand. Okay, where can I rely that never changes? And you know what it is? Your reptilian brain. It has not changed in the last 50,000 years. So if you start, that's the starting point. When you go do what you do best, social media, direct mail, whatever it is, well, if you understand what doesn't change, you can bring innovation to the picture, and then you will succeed. Where we fail is to try to think that because behavior changed, the dynamic of how things happen has changed out as well, and that's not true. It takes a while for reptilian brain really to change and move forward, but the decision process is always the same.
So what do you do? How do you mesmerize someone? What do people respond to that gets them?
Yes.
Because when you say mesmerize, I think, that's something that, like that yellow purse. Oh, I have to have it.
So let's say, so what become the yellow purse? Well, let's understand people then. First of all, today they have a very short attention span. Most of them have an attention span of about 7 seconds.
That's the same as a goldfish.
I was going to say, I think it's less than a goldfish.
Yes. It used, just 2 years ago, this statistic was actually 9 seconds. So we decreased even more. And you can see that everywhere, even in how you expected, for example, a video to be as short as they want, how often the scenes change. All this has to do with this. Very short attention span and very overwhelmed. Now, we are all also self-centered in the sense that when you're marketing, if you focus on them, you're more likely to have success because they need that. It needs to be about them, not about you. Attention is currency to the brain. So Nash, would you mind explaining how the brain works in that regard?
Well, here's the thing. The reason why attention is currency to the brain is that it takes a lot from your brain in order to pay attention to something. It actually is powered. It runs on 9 watts. Just to put it in perspective, 9 watts is 1/3 of the energy that the light bulb inside of your fridge uses. And you know that light bulb isn't very powerful, right? And so when you demand things from your brain, it actually takes a lot of energy. So thinking alone is exhausting. So that's why many times in marketing or anything that you're doing, you have to be specific and you have to tell your audience what you want them to do. Because otherwise, if they have to figure it out on their own, well, then it gets tiring after a while and they just give up. They just go away. They go do something else.
And that is why.
But you bring up a good point because one of the things I find, people will call me and say, my website doesn't work, or, meaning my website doesn't work because people aren't buying. And I go and I look and there's no call to action. Yeah. They're not saying,
oh, but it's obvious.
Hit that button.
Right? It's obvious. They have to click and buy, but it's not. You have to put it there.
You have to tell
clear.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people think it's obvious. They're like, hey, there's a phone number there, so I don't have to tell you to call.
Yeah, no.
But you need to reinforce that this is the step you need to take. Push the button, pick up the phone, email, tell me what you want me to do.
Yeah,
exactly.
You'd always be asking, what can I do so my buyer's brain doesn't have to think, really. And then the attention part is because it uses energy. Really, we filter a lot where we pay attention to. So when you're just posting something on Facebook and I say, but people don't pay attention, I'm promoting this, people don't pay attention, I'm so frustrated. Well, you're competing with all the noise out there as well. And unless you figure a way to become relevant, the brain is not going to really pay attention. It's going to keep scrolling, right? Then another thing is the seeking what is relevant to them, because what is relevant to me may be different than for you, Deborah, and for sure is different than for Nashlah. So that requires you to study a little bit, really the audience you're going to be serving, because you need to understand what is relevant to them. One exercise that we do with our clients is always, when we are defining their ideal client, ask, what are the three things that your ideal client values the most? The 3 things on a very emotional level. Don't tell me they like good products or with good quality. That's
customer service,
commodity. So on a higher
quality
level. And what are the 3 things they fear the most? Okay.
And that's so powerful, Shahar, because if they understand exactly what touches someone, what hurts, what are their fears and what are their values, what they stand for, it allows you to talk to them on a much deeper level, on a level that will touch them emotionally. Just like you said, they make that buying decision on an emotional basis, right? And so how can we as marketers actually connect with them emotionally?
Exactly.
And so by understanding them and knowing exactly what they fear and they value, it becomes so powerful. And that's why it's crucial to know exactly who you're reaching and knowing your ideal clients, and just saying, oh no, my ideal clients are women 18 to 54. Well, that's not your ideal client. It's impossible to be, because like Shahar always says, the conversations are different. The values of an 18-year-old are so much different than the values of a 54-year-old.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think this part of the challenge for some people is to try to figure that out, okay, just recently somebody did email me just what you're talking about, Nashlah, and he said, well, I'm kind of discovering I have 2 audiences. One is men that are this age group and the other is men that are that age group. And I said, well, you're going to have to talk to them 2 different ways. And it's not always just age group. It's also, you know, some might be men that are entrepreneurs and working on their own. Some may be men who are career oriented and are CEOs, and the conversation there is different. Mm-hmm. But the question that comes up is, well, then how do I really find out, you know, especially if I'm new and I'm just getting started. And so here's the audience I think I should be targeting, but I really don't know enough about them. So do you have people that approach you and say, well, how do I figure that out?
Yes, actually all the time. And that's one of the reasons we do this exercise with them, to the point that they know everything about that ideal client. And there are some facts to consider, right? Your ideal client, for example, needs to have enough money to buy from you. So when you're thinking about it, it means, well, simple things, Deborah. For example, do you ever ask if your ideal client is somebody that has a job or is an entrepreneur? And why does that matter? Well, that matters because if I know a person has a job and has always had a job, this person likes security. Stability and security is probably one of their values. So they expect things. They expect to be paid every 2 weeks. They expect to have enough money to pay the bills. Well, if it's an entrepreneur, that shifts, right? Because that entrepreneur will open space for insecurity if that empowers him in some shape and form to go look for whatever is the goal. So when I'm marketing, I need to know, because if I know the person values security, my language will be in that way, right? If security is important for you, if knowing the future, which is important to the brain, by the way, if knowing the future is important for you, then you see, and then you go on. But understanding what they pay, they pay attention to, and how, like I just said, the fact that you need to talk about them, you need to be relevant to them, you also need to be tangible in some shape and format, right? So many of us have businesses that are only online. How can you deliver something that is tangible? Well, there are many ways. Us here putting our faces out there like we are now, people being allowed to say whatever they want, good things and bad things on the chat, well, it becomes a real thing, right? It's still online, but it becomes tangible. You can sense, you may like me, you may hate me. And both ways, right, they are okay, but you are going to have an experience out of this, right? And that is tangible. Everything that you feel is very tangible. So we need to think about that. And then we need to think, okay, so how can I make people move towards me? And basically we have 6 stimuli that people respond to. Very easy.
And
they are. So the first one, the self-centered part, meaning talk about them. Talk about them. We tend to talk a little bit too much about us. Even when we tell stories, which is extremely important, we tend to tell our own experience and contain that there, instead of making a point on how that relates to other people. You see? So you always need to make it about them, because we pay attention for the fact that we are self-centered. We pay attention to contrast. Remember, Nashlah told you about how the brain doesn't want to spend energy. And an easy way not to spend energy is create contrast. But how do you do that? Sometimes it means even reinvention. When we think about Cirque du Soleil, can you really tell what they are? Are they a circus? Are they
acrobats?
Are they acrobats? What are they? Right? You cannot really pinpoint, because they found a way to become something that is different than everybody else, right? Yes. They have a little bit of circus. They have a little bit of whatever, you know, all those things that they have different, but it turns them into something else. Sometimes you need to think, okay, maybe that's where I have to find the only place where I'm not like anybody else. In other moments, it's just, you know, even the color of your hair can be a contrast. If you're not in an environment that everybody wears red, I'm on, right? I'm on, because then I create contrast. Your personality can create contrast for you. But you need to find that, because again, and you know, unfortunately, we tend to try to do what everybody else is doing. And you know that very well. because in internet marketing, that happens all the time, right? New tool, everybody shifts to the new tool and everybody does exactly the same. Nobody tries to do something different in that tool. And we become noise very fast, right? Unless you're one of the first, you become noise. Well, you have to think, okay, I can be using the same tool that everybody is using, but what can we do that creates contrast here, right? And then you're good to go. The other one, it always helps if I click the right place. It needs to be tangible. So people need to feel this as if it was tangible. Again, if you are talking to emotions and dealing to emotions, you can do that too. But if you always lead with facts and data and statistics, you're never going to be able. In other cases, for example, that you have face-to-face interaction, then simple things. I'll tell you. Nash, do you want to tell what we used to do with the CD when we had a consulting and somebody closed?
Yeah, sure. So are you talking about when they didn't close, like when they went driving home?
No, when they did close, that we always left them with something.
So the main thing is there's something that happens when you make a sale or a purchase, and that is buyer's remorse. There's always that moment of buyer's remorse. So it's like, oh, what have I done? Kind of thing. And so when you make... Yeah, so we'd close a new client or make a new sale, a new mentoring program clients, whatever it was, and we'd have a CD for them so that we could, a CD or a kit or whatever it was that we had prepared, and that we would give it to them immediately after we welcomed them. So they make their sale, they pay, and we welcome them into the family, welcome to the family, and then we'd give them this this companion thing that they could take home with them and either listen to it in the car or consume it at home, but essentially so that they could leave the office with something in their hands. Because that's the one thing with consulting many times. It's like, okay, I've just spent a buttload of money, but it feels like I don't have anything yet. Exactly. And so we do that to kind of bypass that buyer's remorse situation.
Yep. And even
that's interesting because Shahar, you were talking about an emotion can be something tangible, but I don't know that everyone would think that. They would still look for something that they could have in their hands, that,
yes,
like you said. So,
and many times you have online programs that you can combine that with something physical that you ship right away. You can. We had something called the shock and awe package that we used a lot. Even to acquire customers, that can be true, because the moment there is it also creates contrast today, because that went away a little bit with the online world. So you can reintroduce that and have extremely success. But when it comes to the emotion, when you're presenting, in the sense you're presenting in order to sell somebody into something, you have to think about and really strategize at the moment that you're going to introduce the wow factor. The moment you introduce the wow factor, that becomes very tangible to them. It's like they see a new world of possibilities and they see themselves in that possibility, and that becomes very tangible. You see,
well, define the wow factor.
Define the... Yeah. When it is years ago, for example, when live streaming started, so this, it looks like it's so new, but it's actually not new whatsoever. In our presentation we had a moment where we would pull out a smartphone and do a live streaming from stage, and we would always call somebody and ask them to talk about something. Well, that was our wow factor in that presentation, because people were really not used to live streaming from a phone. And the moment they saw that, they saw all the possibilities that they could reach in their business because of that new thing.
There's an industry that uses this a lot. I really like this this concept of the wow factor, but infomercials, they use this a lot. And no matter the infomercial, there's always the wow shots. And so you can look back and kind of deconstruct those. I'm a sucker for those things. I always end up buying them, even though they're not always the best, or never the best. Anyway, the wow shot. So for example, I don't know if you remember that infomercial with the bed, is it the Tempur-Pedic bed where it was with the memory foam. It's foam, and you'd have that shot where you had the glass of wine on the edge of the bed, and then you had the husband kind of like bouncing on the bed, and the glass doesn't tumble over. Well, that's the wow shot for that. Or like if you watch the commercials on the Muddy Putty, I think it was, where they'd have like the Muddy Putty tied to a semi truck, and then they'd stretch it away, drive away, and it would still be connected. That's the wow shot. That's the shot that when you watch that, you go, wow, that is amazing. I need to get that. So,
as you know, she knows every single one by heart.
Yes, I can keep going. Would you like me to talk about the Wonder Hangers? No, I'm just kidding.
You bought them all.
I have.
Yes.
Yes.
So the other thing is beginning and end. If I want to have people towards me, I need to understand that I have to show them the beginning and end. The brain needs to know the future. Every time it doesn't know the future, it freezes. Because it's the same thing, what can happen next? So the cyber tiger can come from anywhere, and I'm lost because it's going to eat me for lunch. So it's important for us to understand that we need to guide the brain and put anxiety down. Every time I put the anxiety down, it's more likely that people will take action. So simple things. Let's suppose you give keynote speeches out there, or you give webinars and teleseminars or any other format where you're actually doing a presentation. A simple thing is, hey, folks, how you doing today? I hope you're having a great time. We are getting ready to get started. And today what we are going to cover is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. When you do that, anxiety goes down. Oh, it's going to be about this.
It puts that brain, that reptilian brain, at ease. That hunter, I like to think of it as a hunter. It needs to be prepared, and it puts them at ease because it knows what's coming ahead.
Yeah, and the same thing you do.
I like using numbers.
Okay.
In my mind, it's like 5 steps or 4 steps, or you're talking about 6 elements to use, because then people go, okay, I'm going to get something definitive, something finite, and then you start to count. What are those things?
Yeah. And telling them also, oh, we are going to go for an hour. So you're setting the parameters of the beginning and at the end of whatever you're doing, right? So if you're selling consulting, for example, when people are deciding to buy, you say, this is how it's going to work. For example, in my case, I say, we're going to meet for 6 months. The first 4 sessions, it's brainstorm. It's only you and your partners, no employees allowed. And we are going to brainstorm, create a picture. This is going to be translated into a mind map. You're going to print that, have something to go to your company. So I outline everything. So they are not thinking, oh, we are just going to sit down every week and talk. You see, I'm going to show there is a structured process. There is a credible process. And I'm going to tell what's going to do from the beginning until the end. That puts them at ease, thinking I'm making the right decision. Okay, extremely important as well. And one more, if I find again, we are all very visual. So you need to use that. And today, Deborah, that happens everywhere, right? Everything is becoming a visual tool. Most social media environments today are very, very visual intense, and that's what we'd like. That's why the adoption of Pinterest, for example, was so big. Because, it aligns with what makes people move towards. So today, if you like text a lot, you need to understand how to break that down with really visual formats. And, like putting the infographic or putting a picture with every single post. You might think, oh, it's more work. And yes, it is. But the fact is that works because we are visual. And then
once in a while, I will say, for example, on Facebook, there's some exceptions because I do a lot of visuals on Facebook, but once in a while, I'll just write 2 or 3 lines or text, and I'm surprised how many people respond.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think there's a balance, but yes, more and more people are looking at the visual.
You're totally true. There is a balance, and there are moments that the visual doesn't even apply. Well, what we are talking about is when we want that people to come moving towards us in order to take any specific action. So you have to see, okay, every time I go into learning or instructions, the visual will help me. Because if I'm talking to an overwhelmed brain, I have heard this many times. You put one paragraph of instructions for any type, and somebody will ask you to create an infographic so they don't have to read. Nashlah had an experience at the office the other day, correct? Tell me about it.
Yeah, she needed to do a Google search, and as she picks up her phone, she's like, "Oh, let's just go on Google Images because who has time to read search results?" They don't even want to read search results now. It's all about looking at the search images. I find that a little disturbingly sad.
I might agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, we live in a complicated world if you think about it, because it has changed so much that we really need to figure out a lot of things again because of this. And you may say, oh, but it's a lot related to the age, but you would be impressed. How many people think reading a paragraph is too much? And it is said the average American reads one book a year, which I find really bad. Yeah, really bad. So, Deborah, can we talk now about the 5 steps to mesmerize?
Sure.
Okay, so write that down, because really this is a process that you say, okay, if I apply this, I will see the results. I will get more attention from my market. So I'm going to tell all of them, and then we are going to go deeper into each one. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah, 5 steps to mesmerize.
So first one, you have to make an impression. We'll talk about that, but write that down. Make an impression.
I'm writing it down. I'm writing.
Second, be relevant.
Okay.
Third, create contrast.
Okay.
4, incorporate rituals.
Okay.
And 5, spread your wings.
Like that. Okay, so now you're going to talk about each one?
Yes. So, for example, to make an impression, we have here really several things. Your status will count. Your voice will count. The prestige you create inside the group or inside a market will count. And all those will help you increase your level of trust. Okay? There are 4 components that will affect consumers' responses to your offering. Though often on a level that you really cannot explain, cannot articulate. It's thinking, sensory appeal, the community factor, and the values. Remember, we talked about values before. And understand and take advantage of these drivers. So for you, in order to take advantage of the thinking, sensory appeal, you need to find your own voice in the market. That means how you're going to, not only the voice, but how you're going to express the things that you value and you fear out there, because those values and those fears will resonate with your audience. And you need to find the media that you are going to use for that. So for example, Deborah, you found your spot on Blab, right? And here is the media that you're using to show your own voice. When you write your book, you're doing the same thing. Is that correct? You're writing that book with your approach, with your way of viewing the world. We may both be talking about marketing, and we may even be talking about online marketing. I bet your book is going to be very different than mine, as we know they are, because you've seen mine and I've seen yours. Because we have our own way of seeing the world, our beliefs and values might be different, and we are going to express that. Once you have that, you start going apart from the competition. So we have many examples out there that did this in a very big way, like Oprah, right? You get Oprah, you get Dr. Phil, you know that contrast, Glenn Beck, and some that I don't like, but they managed to create that contrast actually because they found their own voice. It's extremely important. So again, being a sheep is not going to serve you if you're going in business. You need to be able to find your own voice, and then finding the media that you like and have control over that. Now, the media that you like will be related to what you feel comfortable doing. So some people love writing, so they need to find a blog, for example, or write several books and go that route because they can do that for 10 years in a row without getting bored. So they have to go. Other people like cameras. I like cameras. So, my life really rotates around that. Is the media I'm comfortable with. Other people like audio. So go get an audio podcast. So find your own media, but control that. Don't just become guests in other people's media, because again, it's fun and we do that all the time, but you have no control over that. You have control. See? So you need to find your own voice in that media. And of course, if you can incorporate some components of visual, you will also have more response. Okay, is that clear for you? Or for all of you, actually?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, now the part of becoming relevant to the market. Crucial to understand is about us, not you. And the younger your target market, the more important that is. Okay, the baby boomers, we are more self-centered. We are changing that because we are in the winter of our lives. So now we are paying more and more attention to legacy, right? Leaving something that matters out there, that makes an impact. But we didn't grow up that way. But the millennials are all about the community and the society. They care about what the others are going through. So if you want to be relevant to any audience, it's about us, not you. You may be the best person in the world, but you still need to look outside a little bit, right? Relevance focuses on results. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's been true for a very long time, but I don't know that people have always been aware of it or cognizant of it, because I've always said one of the most important words you can use when you're writing content is you. You meaning the customer, the buyer, the prospect, not we. We do this and we do that. It's you, and how can I help you? So it's always been true, but I think a lot of people lose sight of that.
They do, and because we are living now in the age of celebrity, I have my following, I have my peeps on Facebook. We tend to incorporate this thing that, I'm a celebrity, it's all about me, and that's not a healthy position to be. You see, it's not, if you're taking too many selfies a day, you need to sit down and think where you're going, right? It's okay.
We know some people that do that.
Oh, yes, we know. But, especially if you're not, and again, especially if you're not a millennial, you really need to question why you're doing that. And if that is serving you. Because again, the millennial they do live in a different culture. So the fact that they take a lot of selfies has a reason in the dynamic that they are, socializing. Much more than for you and me.
Yeah.
If we take selfies every day, Deborah, we need to sit down, come to Blab, and let's have a chat. Because, right? So yes, we all have our audience. We all have, many of us want to serve this audience well, but we cannot just come and start thinking, I'm the celebrity and it's all about me, because we are not going to go anywhere. We need to see the other first. Relevance also depends on 3 circumstances: content, contest, and contact. Okay, so the quality of the content you're providing cannot only be information. Information has no value anymore. And so you need to bring a structured type of information to people. And that's where many of us are struggling in business today, because we are bringing what we used to bring 5 years ago. So I'm going to create this product about this, and it's a lot of information, and people don't even go through that, right? They put in the shelf. So we need to have content that people can see that is a structure and that they can apply and see the results. The contest is where is this incorporated, in which way? And then the contact and what type of content. Again, even when we think about social now, we tend to be satisfied if we get a few likes and a few comments, but it needs to be deeper than that. Okay, so you're not putting just things out there. You can post 10 things on your Facebook page and you are going to get a little bit more visibility, but are you really going to get any type of results if that really doesn't resonate with the audience, or that really doesn't change anything? Because the content, go ahead.
Well, I think it's important to, what's the word? To connect, to engage. That's the word I'm looking for. So people like things on Facebook or on LinkedIn or Twitter, and nobody responds to them. Or somebody comments and the person doesn't respond. I'm always very conscious, and I always consult and tell people, if you're going to be on social networks, excuse me, you need to be social. So, you know, when you post something, if somebody does like it, even if it's just to say thank you.
I agree with you.
You know, you want to build that relationship and engage with them.
It's not always easy, right? Because, for example, myself in this case, I've been using social media, I think, since they invented the word. I don't even know how long. I was on Twitter on the first day. But the fact is, Deborah, that my personality, it's complicated. I can like all day long, but I have a hard time leaving comments. Because really, maybe it's the critic in myself. Sometimes I think I don't have anything relevant to say, right? I question myself if I'm going to say something intelligent. So I'm not good at comments, and you know, that has an end result, because it could be better. So you have to think, okay, according to your personality, which is really the tool that you would be comfortable with? Yeah. Right. So just understand that communication is primarily a vehicle for delivering relevance to your audience. So you can play a lot, you can put a lot of cute stuff just to get more traction, in the sense that everybody is going to share that cute puppy, but you also need to deliver relevance when it's your voice speaking. And context also has to do with time and space, which you also need to think about. Is this the appropriate time? Right? Because it might not be. Let me give you an example of advertising that follows this rule about becoming relevant. And I don't have it here, so I may not say the right words, but it's Patek Philippe. Patek Philippe is a type of watch that is pretty expensive, correct? And if you look in magazines when they advertise, you're going to see that they always talk about the watch as if you were leaving a legacy to the next generation. So they don't talk about the material the watch is made of. They don't talk about how cool you're going to look, how your status is going to increase. They are talking about the end result. And the end result, you're leaving a piece of history to the next generation. You're changing the next generation. Okay? That's extremely powerful. It's relevant to most people, and it's about us, what we are doing about the next generation. So it's not about yourself, the status, which used to be a lot of the advertising we would see in the 60s and the 70s, right? Because we were a self-centered generation. Nashlah, I want you to talk about that game, the Play It Forward, and why it had traction, especially amongst millennials.
Yeah, so it's really cool. It's called Play It Forward. And it's a card game, almost like you can buy it at Barnes & Noble, let's say. And it's the approach is you have a mission. On each card, there's a mission, and it'll tell you what to do. And the cards are divided by things that you might want to work on. So maybe it's a social mission, or it has to relate to someone else. Maybe it's something interpersonal, it's an interpersonal mission, or whatever it may be. And so when you pick a card for that day, it'll tell you maybe like, give this card to someone on the street, or find someone who plays the guitar and give it to them, or go to a different city and leave this card on an airplane. And then basically when someone finds that card, these are completely random things. When they find it, they log it. So they log it that they found it, but then they play it forward and they go and they do whatever that card is saying to the next person. And it's really neat when you start this, because you get to see, it keeps track of where your card is. And so, for example, if I start it here in Salt Lake City today, it might end up like we travel a lot. And so I get a kick out of the ones that tell me to do stuff in different cities, because then I get to put my card somewhere else. And so essentially that's the game, right, Shahar? But tell me the one thing that I've complained about it to you as part of this game.
You know, because you complain a lot, I don't remember.
Yeah, but essentially.
No, you don't do that.
No, she exaggerates.
I'm the complainer.
Yeah, but essentially with the card, like it tells you, it doesn't make it clear, so it engages. For example, it engaged me. It completely speaks to my personality. Even if I just read the packaging, the words that they use, it's almost like I'm their ideal client. That everything resonates so much with me. The moment I saw that, I bought it. It was just like that. But then it lacks a little on the follow-up. So like I want to be able to actually track my card and see it, and they give me that, but it doesn't make it clear remember what we were talking about, that you have to make it clear what you want people to do. And on the cards, it doesn't really make it clear. It's there, it's written if you look at it, but it doesn't make it clear what you want the person to do other than that action, but to log it. And so it's one of those things where it's relevant to me. The card made itself relevant to me, the game. But at the same time, it loses me because it doesn't really make clear the actions that the people need to take when they're playing that.
And it's a game that is all about the others all the time, right? Because
yes.
It's you interact. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Interesting.
Now, one thing that we need to consider, you may be asking, okay, so I got it. You told me to make an impression and everything, but how do I become relevant then? What's the process? And there is an easy exercise. That is, you have to find the broken windows.
The broken windows are really neat, Shahar, because it's a concept that came from the cops, like in New York City.
New York, yeah.
And one of the things that they noticed is that, homes that had perhaps a broken window somewhere and it stayed that way for a long period of time, they realized that statistically these homes would likely be homes that they would be visiting because of issues. And so, it's almost like if something breaks in your house, you usually, if you tend to it, you fix it rather quickly. But they noticed that, if people don't, sometimes those are usually trouble houses. And so the same thing applies for our businesses and for our lives, really. And so when there are issues, or when someone comes to you, even as a consultant, if you're consulting with someone, find the broken windows, realize what are the problems that need to be fixed so that you can make those improvements there, and they won't be problems later on.
Yes, because many times people come to you, especially in our field, and they think they need something. Like they come, I need to do social media, right? But you just start asking questions, which is always a healthy thing to do. Talk less and ask more questions, and they will start putting their frustrations, and you start understanding the things that they value, the things that they fear, the things that are not going well, and you paint a good picture of their own window, and then you can go and be right on the problem. So they bring you a problem that they have identified without much analyzing. They are just saying, okay, I'm not selling, things are not working, everybody's using social media, so I need to use social media, right? That's the process. But as you ask some questions, you start seeing, okay, this is something that is really underlying the subtext, as Konstantin Stanislavski used to say in theater. You have to figure out what's the subtext of what the person is saying. And by identifying that and identifying their fears, you're good to go. Now you're going to really become relevant to them, because you're talking like, you know them, and there is a long relationship in the process.
So you said, we were talking about the 5 steps, 5 to mesmerize. And so the first one's to make an impression, and the second one is to be relevant to your market. So talk to us a little bit about number 3, which is create contrast.
Let's talk about create contrast. And I believe there is a question here at the chat, if I'm not wrong, that maybe we'll be able to answer now. When you're creating contrast, we already talked a little bit, right? Can be the hair, can be the voice, can be how you shape the business as a whole. But here is where you demonstrate your importance, the importance of you being in the picture. Okay. Here's also the place where you have room for innovation. Again, we are always afraid to innovate, or we tend to think innovation is for tech companies, but we all need to innovate ourselves. If you keep doing, doesn't matter which profession you are, if you keep doing exactly the same thing in the eyes of your buyer, and you don't bring something new every now and then, you will lose traction, because we like new. The brain likes new. It doesn't like to change, but it likes new. So you have to figure, okay, how can I innovate the way I deliver? It's really a simple thing. Maybe 5 years ago, you are talking and giving consulting over the phone, but now you're teaching your clients to use the consulting session on Blab, for example. That's an innovation. It doesn't have to be, something that you create totally out of nothing. It can be simple things. It's how you deliver what you provide. Right? For example, maybe you used to create videos to teach your clients. Now you say, no, let's do a live stream so you can interact with me. Bingo, you have innovated. The other very important thing to create contrast is to learn to tell stories. I already told you, not only about you, but something that people can really relate to. There is a company that does this extremely well, and they produce a commodity, right? They produce, they manufacture chocolate. It's called Voges Chocolate. It's a women's own business from Chicago. And Nashlah, what do you think they tell stories well?
Well, stories are so powerful, Shahar. That's the really cool thing, because as humans, we're wired for stories. Since very little, that's essentially how we learn, right? And so I love the example of Voges chocolates, because not only do they have they stand out on so many levels. For example, with their flavors, they're a commodity to sell chocolate, but it's chocolate and bacon, chocolate and wasabi, chocolate and cayenne pepper. Yeah. So they not only stand out, they became unique from that angle. But what's really neat, if you get one of their packages, Deborah, and you look and you flip it over, not only, so yes, you'll see the boring nutritional information, because that has to be there, but you'll read the story. You'll read, hey, the reason why Katrina, the founder, decided to come up with this concoction of chocolate and bacon. And she'll tell you, I came up with this idea because when I was a little girl, I used to sit at my grandma's table, and she would make me pancakes with maple syrup and chocolate and bacon, and it was delicious. And that inspired me to create this chocolate bar today. Exactly. And so then you're reading, and she actually takes it a step further, but she tells you how to consume this chocolate. She's going to tell you to open that wrapper and then touch the chocolate and snap it and hear the snap, and then just let it sit in your fingers and just feel that texture, and then put it in your mouth and let it melt a little. She actually, everyone knows how to eat chocolate, right? But she tells you how to consume her product, and she turns it into an experience. And that allows her to charge much more for a piece of chocolate than any other brand that you could buy at the grocery store.
It is so beautiful.
So it's called Voges. Is it
VOSGES? VOSGES.
It's so beautiful, because in the package, she tells you how to use your 5 senses to consume the chocolate. Think about it. It's smell and taste and feel. Brilliant marketing done in less than 1 paragraph in a chocolate. Now, what happens? What's the result? Creates so much contrast that the perception of value increases. And when we increase our perception of value, price doesn't matter. Because one thing, and I know you consult with people all day long, Deborah, people come to you and say, oh, I cannot charge more than $75 an hour because that's the way the market does. Well, yeah, if you're seen as the rest of the market, that's a very true statement. But if you increase the perception of value of what you do, price becomes irrelevant, because you became relevant because you created a contrast as well. You see how it works? So it's awesome. Really cool. I think it's really cool, because it can be done by anybody. You don't have to, think, oh, I have to spend thousands of dollars in design and logo. That's not relevant to people anymore. So think about what it is and how you tell those stories in a way that means something to them. And then bring something unexpected to the picture. Okay? Every time you bring something out of the blue, it can be something like silence. What happens? You regain attention right away. If you scream the same thing, there are many ways to bring the unexpected into the picture. But you should be thinking, how can I do that? Because not only you're creating the contrast, but you're making the brain rewire. If it's a presentation, some presentations are very long. That's one thing you can do. And embrace oddities. That's another way to create contrast. Embrace sometimes something that is unique to you. Years ago in my country, I started a talent agency that was called Funny Faces, and it was all about people that are different. So I had people that were bald or with big noses or just different overall.
Different, yet people who looked like people, normal people, right?
Right.
Exactly.
They're real people.
And what would we do with the talent that we had when we were interviewing with them before we sent them to gigs? Really to understand what's in them would create contrast. And sometimes it was the big no. So that, let's make that the highlight. Let's make that the cool thing, right? It can be anything. It can be anything. Right. So embrace oddities. One example of how to embrace oddities that became a huge success is the game Cards Against Humanity. And why, Nash?
Well, because it's so outrageous in some ways, Shahar. I don't know if you've ever played the game, Deborah, but it's a lot of fun. It is one of my favorite games, but it's outrageous. Some of the things that they say, it's like, oh, it's shocking.
People don't say that, right?
Yeah, you don't usually say these things out loud.
Yeah, exactly. And
I have played it. I played it once, and that was just it. It was like, really? That's what.
Yeah. Yes. And then when it comes Thanksgiving, that you go there and you pay to get nothing. I mean, they pay attention to, and you say, but I'm not in the game industry.
Explain that though. They have on Thanksgiving, they do the Black Friday promotion, and they say something like, it's Black Friday, people are buying tons of things everywhere, and we think that you shouldn't buy tons of things everywhere. So we have a Black Friday promotion, and basically you give us money and we're not going to give you anything in return. And they make thousands of dollars each year during Thanksgiving, during Black Friday, just that little promotion, and it creates such contrast, right?
Yeah.
Just by that.
And they don't miss a beat. They just launched an extension that is Trump Against Humanity. So it's a whole set of cards on that.
We're not in politics.
But think how brilliant marketing it is. They got something that is in the news every day, create an extension pack about that. That creates contrast. And I want to, Nashlah, maybe you tell the story because you always remember better. And this is the last one about contrast. The Amazon Halloween story. Because, again, you may be thinking, I don't create cars. My business is different. There's no such a thing. So you always need to pay attention to other markets.
Yes, and I especially like this example because it shows. Well, anyway, let me tell you the story. So we have a friend, and she has a little daughter, and Halloween was coming up, and she asked the little daughter, like, "What would you like to be for Halloween?" And she said, "I'd like to be a panda fairy." And my friend was like, "Well, okay, great." Obviously, like, racking her brain, how are we going to make this happen? And so her husband went on Twitter, he has an active Twitter account, and he tweeted, well, guess what? My daughter wants to be a panda fairy. I wonder if we can find that costume on Amazon. And within minutes, Amazon reached out to him and said, hey, what's her size? And a few days later, Amazon approached him. A few days later, she got a panda fairy costume in the mail, given by Amazon. It was really neat, really fabulous. They got so much attention off of that, Amazon alone. And now they also got a client for life because this friend will probably never, ever abandon Amazon, right?
And anytime they need a costume,
or anything else for that matter.
But look, from the Amazon perspective, so the business perspective, all they did to create a huge contrast with any competition was to listen, right? They were listening.
Mm-hmm.
They were reading the tweet. That was all. That's the effort that it took to create the contrast and become relevant at the same time, and creating an advocate for their business. So it's just fantastic. And you see, it doesn't require anything but you listening to your own audience, paying attention to what they are saying, and when you see an opportunity, to embrace that opportunity, right? And then the next step is incorporate rituals. This is personally my favorite because I think, okay, why rituals in a business? Why are you talking about this? And when you think about other industries and you see the multi-level, the network marketing industry, or the church, any church, you're going to see that they use that a lot, right? In the church, if you ever been to one of any faith, you understand that. There's a ritual in every part of the process, and you go, and then you get some type of job inside that you can help, and you move from there. In the network marketing company, you have to reach different ranks, and as you reach different ranks, you get more information, and you get more access to people that have succeeded, right? Well, that is the reason you use in a business, but there's even more. It's because once you incorporate rituals, the brain tends to stick to you. The brain cannot cope with an unanswered question. So every time there is an unanswered question, it stays around because it needs to figure out. If we look in today's age, there is a podcast that became a phenomenon that is the Serial, right? But the very first season was about Anand Syed that went to prison, and the next one was about that guy that deserted the army. You say during the whole time, 10 episodes, 1 hour long, during 10 weeks. Why? Because you don't have the final answer. So you have to stick around. That's why Coke uses the secret formula, or KFC, the 3 labs with nobody with the recipe. Same reason here, right? There is a mystery related to that. It makes people stick to you. But it also shows when you have that you have structure. And actually, the brain likes structure because it feels safe. So you're not just doing whatever you're doing. There is a process that. So that's very important.
Can you give an example? I mean, when you say rituals, I'm thinking, well, is there a ritual in my business? One might be when I bring in a client, I have a questionnaire I give them. It's a ritual I always have to do to get information from them, to learn more about them. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
We used to use this as well. Every single time there was a prospect, we would send first a questionnaire. What's the purpose of the questionnaire? Mm-hmm. Of course, you get more information from them, but there's a lot more happening. The second one is because you sent the questionnaire, and sometimes you may even ask how much the company makes a year because you need to know, or other questions. You shift the perception, because what's going to happen to that individual while he or she is writing that questionnaire is, oh, why a questionnaire? Will I qualify? Maybe she's not going to accept me as a client. Oh, maybe I don't have enough money to work with her. Oh, maybe, right? So you stop being the person that was selling something to, will I be accepted by them? So the questionnaire, when used the right way, it's a very powerful tool. Very powerful tool, because it shifts the relationship. You're not selling them on anything anymore. So we used to do this actually with the prospect, not even with the client. They're more later, but right there, to establish how you're going to work and what position we play in that relationship since the very first start. But you can do more. If you have an office, if you still have a physical office, with consulting, we don't use office anymore because most of our clients are virtual. But we have offices for the other business. The person would come, they would meet a room with no receptionist. I personally don't like receptionists. I don't like them talking on the phone, texting, whatever else. But they would have what we call the Star Bus. So they could get a cup of coffee, whatever they wanted, something to snack, and they would sit in that room for at least, we would come and greet them, but they would sit in that room for about 5 minutes. The reason behind that is I wanted them to decompress from whatever was happening before they came. Since we talk about technology and complicated things, I want them a little bit living behind that day so far. Then we would take them to 2 other rooms that we had. One of them had pictures on the wall of our dogs. We take wildlife photography, so it would have. So on a glimpse, on an instant, that brain would know things that we value. And then they would come to my room, which we used to call the money room. And everything there had a purpose. For example, on my left side, I used to have a full wall with my clients smiling, pictures of them. Why is that? First of all, this validates what I do. They are real clients and they are smiling, which is a good thing. But but in the process, if it was the sales meeting, for example, there would come a moment that we would show them how much they would invest in a computer. We follow the same process of high-level negotiations where people write the numbers and pass the paper. So we would never mention the figure, ever. We would allow them to see the figure and even the options on how they could pay. And we would shut our mouths. And we would never break their silence. They had to break. Is in negotiation, they say, well, whoever breaks the silence is the weakest part, but that's not the point. It's that because we want them to go figure out, think about the objection and come out with the objection. We want that. And every single time, no matter what, they would look at the wall. And many times the eye would rest on that wall for a couple of minutes to some point, right? Mm-hmm. And that was doing selling for me. Okay, then they would break the silence, and we would deal with whatever objection it was. Go ahead, right? Well, even when they were clients already, we would follow the same structure until they get to the room. So, some clients would see us speaking, and we would tell the story. So they would come and they would say, "Oh, I'm another client. I can go right in." And we would, "No, you can't. Please sit down, enjoy yourself, get something to drink." Rachel, you have to obey. You see? So you in this, you're also educating your audience on how to work with you. And it's important because then things become very clear on both sides. And that's extremely, extremely important. Do I have time to give one more example?
I was going to say we need to wrap up here soon. So why don't you go through the last step, which is number 5, spread the wings.
Spread the wings. So that's when you want to establish a real connection. So you really learn how to worry about the others and what they value. You create a sense of partnership. You can do this in many simple ways. If you're in consulting, we did this with a new client 2 days ago. We told them once we create this relationship, so when they start paying, we become your partners in the sense that we will be thinking about your issues outside the room, and we are going to say what we have to say. We are not getting paid to please you, but we are getting paid to tell you the truth, right? We are the fresh eyes in this picture without emotional connections, and we are going to do that. That needs to become clear, because I'm not going to tell what you want to hear. And really, that's where you can become a sustainable business, right? And look for more channels of revenue. This is a little bit outside the topic, but you always need to think in the business that I have right now, what other models of revenue I can implement so I can really spread the wings in what I do and become better, because it's a little dangerous if you only have one model of revenue. So that can constrain everything that you can become.
Okay. So let's go over those 5 things real briefly. The 5 steps to mesmerize your audience are to make an impression, be relevant to your market, create contrast, incorporate rituals, and spread your wings.
Very good.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. Is there anything that you wanted to add to it, Nash?
No.
Or did Shahar?
I think she did a pretty good job at covering it. Yes, the one thing I would say, I guess, is you've heard about these concepts. Now the best thing to do is really take action. Listening alone won't do you any good. So see what you can implement. Go one step at a time, but take action.
So, ladies, before we wrap up, why don't you tell viewers how they can find you? Where's the best place that they can reach you, or is it on Facebook? Is it your website? Tell me and we'll let them know.
Today's age, you really can reach me anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah, but if you go to Buzz Booster, that's our main website, BUZZBOOSTER. You can read our blog, you can contact us in any time, and we also hope to see you at Curious Mondo, MONDO. And we have courses with amazing experts every single week. They're free to watch, so join us there as well.
So is it curiousmondo.com?
Yes.
Okay. So buzzbooster.com and curiousmondo.com. Awesome. And then people can find you, I know, on Facebook.
Yeah. I do go to Facebook a lot. Twitter, we are there several times a day. So those are the best 2 tools for you to go and connect with us. But you can find us anywhere. We are very
well, thank you, Shahar, and thank you, Nashlah, for being here. I'm so, it's a great way to at least get to see you. I know we see each other on Facebook, but at least we get to chat today and have it.
Yeah, you need to come to Utah. I've been to Denver more than once, so you have to come to Utah.
That's true. So how long does it take to drive to Utah?
Oh, it takes
4 or 5 hours, maybe?
No, it's over 12 hours. Yeah.
Ooh.
We did it 2 days last time.
I was going to say, if it's 4 or 5 hours, I'd get in the car. But if it's 12, I'll have to fly there.
You go close to Vegas, and then you come this way, something like this. So.
Okay. Well, Thank you again. I'm going to stop the recording. We can chat for a little bit after we're done. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. You've been on the Marketing Blab with Deborah. I'm looking for my little image, but I must have lost it. Oh, here it is, the Marketing Blab with Deborah. And my guests have been Shahar and Nashlah Boyayan of BuzzBooster.com and CuriousMondo.com. Thanks, everybody, for being with us today, and have a fabulous day.